Hey guys, my name is Gabby and I am doing this video for Interpersonal Communication Class 170 Section 2. And today I will be talking about Chapter 7 and Chapter 9, which are emotions and communication versus managing conflict in relationships, which combining them together will equal emotions during conflict. Chapter 7 explains how emotional intelligence is our ability to recognize and to judge which feelings are appropriate in which situations and to communicate those feelings effectively. Chapter 9 then talks about interpersonal conflict, which is when people in I-you or I-thou relationships have different views, interests, or goals and feel a need to resolve those differences. But we must remember that conflict exists only if disagreements or tensions are expressed. So we can't have a conflict unless someone expresses their feelings or emotions and actually makes the conversation out of it. According to Wood, people with high emotional intelligence quotients or EQs are more likely than people with lower EQs to create satisfying relationships. When having to deal with conflicts, it is important to take responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, and issues, as well as showing grace and honoring yourself, your partner, and the relationship itself. When conflict arises, it is natural to jump into arguing aggressively. So, obviously, when we have a conflict, we tend to just jump in aggressively and try to win and not even think about the other person. But Chapter 7 explains that it is important to recognize our own feelings, choose whether and how to express emotions, and respond sensitively when others communicate emotions. So it is important that we listen to others and their emotions and take them in consideration and not just take them for granted. This all ties up when a couple encounters with a conflict in their lives and how they handle it. The first 3 minutes will then shape the rest of the argument. But being able to control one's own emotions and being able to respond with a loyalty response will help the relationship stay intact and not let it all fall apart. A loyalty response is when you take the relationship into consideration and know that you're working towards a goal that will benefit the relationship and not let it fall apart. So you're working hard for that relationship to work out and not let it fall apart. Or it's either you try to always have the relationship in mind and know that you want it to work out, therefore you go with a more positive outlook. For example, Jake and Marie are in a relationship and they start to argue. At first, they must stop and recognize their own feelings and thoughts, keeping in mind that it is both their relationship on the line. How one expresses emotions to another affects the other person and the way that they will respond. So if one of them responds at first with a very aggressive or a very mellow response, then it will affect how the other person responds. They will either respond aggressively or mellow as well. It's just depending on how the first person reacts. They both must also recognize one another's feelings and concerns. And when being in the middle stages of conflict, they must engage in bracketing as well as in emotion work. And bracketing is noting an issue arising in the course of conflict should be discussed later. So some things should just be left aside and left for another time. And emotion work is effort to generate what we think are appropriate feelings in particular situations. So it ties to bracketing. What is appropriate at the time and what is not. So something that happened 3 weeks ago should be left out and not brought in back into the argument, because then it will just build up the tension and it'll affect the outcome of the conflict. Both must recognize that some of the things they may want to say are not suitable for the moment and that some feelings must be left aside for another time, which again is bracketing and emotion work. Aiming at a win-win will be for the better, and in the later stages, it is important to resolve the tensions and to respond sensitively when the other is communicating their emotions. So it is important for both to be satisfied and not have a lose win or a lose lose, because the intentions are still within the relationship that might be brought up later, and then it'll create an even bigger conflict. So it is better to resolve the tensions. And so for a healthy relationship and to end up with a happy couple and not conflicting, you must show grace, own your feelings, stay calm, especially the first 3 minutes. Focus on overall communication system. Choose whether and how to express emotions. Identify your emotions. Aim for win-win and honor both in the relationship. So honor yourself in the relationship. And that's it. Thank you.